I have just heard you on that idiot Jinkies channel. You know, those who coddle you. Why don't y'all just put Don's R and crack into a baby bottle with a nipple and hold him cradled in your little arms and shove it in his mouth? Sing him rockabye baby. Y'all, if you haven't heard it, Donald Wells has now, on Jinkies the other night, basically accused the state of Tennessee Child Protective Services. How did he put it? They kidnapped my boys. I wouldn't put it past them to kidnap Summer. Pretty much like that? Really? Are you fucking kidding? You are accusing the very department that rescued your sons. They rescued them, Donald Wells. They did not kidnap them. Not only that, but being the liar that you are. Remember when you told the public, Donald Wells, that you had asked the state of Tennessee to take your boys because it was so dangerous? Anybody knows what causes that? Let me know, please. That right there. You told us that the state of Tennessee took your boys at your request, more or less, because it was dangerous for them at 110 Ben Hill Road. It was dangerous for them, all right, but not for the reasons you want to imply. Now, you've gone from the state took the boys because you asked them to they kidnapped them. And if they kidnapped your boys and you don't trust the state of Tennessee, well, you narrowed it down from the state of Tennessee to the welfare. Well, it's not the welfare either, Don. The welfare is what you people are trying to get in my state of Arkansas. You know, food stamps and Medicaid. So, this is a pretty much pointless video that serves doesn't serve any purpose other than me venting. Yeehaw. Yee motherfucking ha. To Donald Wells, the coddlers of YouTube and social media, who not only let him say and get away with it that the state of Tennessee kidnapped his boys and probably kidnapped Summer, could have kidnapped Summer. Fucking idiot.
Excuse me for the language.
But you
sorry.
Encouraged him, Jinkies. You encouraged
Jinkies didn't encourage him.
No, not just Tennessee. They're corrupt everywhere. You have receipts for that. You know, you're making claims.
Actually, I'm fixing to show receipts for that. Actually, I am. I'm about to show receipts. So get ready. Please pay attention. I don't want to have to repeat myself about this, but I want to show how CPS is indeed corrupt. And they're not just corrupt in Tennessee, but they're corrupt in many states. So let's get with it. Yeah. So she's basically blaming Jinkies. And I was the one that actually said that all of CPS is corrupt in every state, not just Tennessee, because they are. And yes, I have receipts. Here you go. Here's just a few. Are you familiar with Nancy Schaefer? Have you ever heard of her? Yeah, Georgia State Senator. Well, let's see what she's got to say.
Our next speaker is Senator Nancy Schaefer. Nancy? Oh, there you are. Yes, Nancy is a longtime Eagle Forum member and leader. She has had an organization called Family Concerns, which was very effective all over the state of Georgia, and another one called Family Concerns Pregnancy Center. She has been in the Georgia State Senate for several terms and is a member of 6 Senate committees. Please welcome our good friend, Senator Nancy Schaefer.
Thank you, dear Phyllis, and thank you to all of you. I have served in the Georgia State Senate for 4 years. One of my greatest pleasures, other than my sonogram bill, was getting the resolution passed to stop the North American Union. However, for 4 years, I had been confronted with families struggling to remove their children from the clutches of Child Protective Services. I wrote a scathing report last year on the corruption in Child Protective Services, and an update and copies are out on the table. During the last session of the Georgia General Assembly, I introduced Senate Bill 415 relating to juvenile proceedings, and copies of that bill are attached to the report on the tables. The bill 415 called for the time allotted for the Department of Human Resources to provide emergency care to a child without a court order to be reduced from 7 days to 72 hours. It required a court order to enter the residence of a parent or guardian to seize a child. It called for family court to be open to the public. Confidentiality and secrecy in family court protects the wrong people. It provided that immunity in the system shall not extend to the seizures of children that are found to be in violation, nor to the administration of medication to a child over the objection of the parent or custodian, and it provided the state from applying for obtaining, receiving, or accepting adoption incentive payments under the Federal Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997. The Department of Child Protective Services has become a protected empire built on taking children and separating families. This is not to say that there are not those children who do need to be removed from wretched situations and need protection. However, my report is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping. Having worked with probably 300 cases statewide and hundreds across the country, and in nearly every state, I am convinced there is no accountability in child protective services. I have come to several conclusions. 2 or 3 are: one, that poor parents, not always, but oftentimes, are targeted to lose their children because they do not have the wherewithal to hire an attorney and fight the system. That caseworkers and social workers are very often guilty of fraud. They withhold and destroy evidence. They fabricate evidence, and they seek to terminate parental rights unnecessarily. That the separation of families and the snatching of children is growing as the business grows, because state and local governments have grown accustomed to having these taxpayer dollars to balance their ever-growing budgets. That the bureaucracy is huge. Look at who is getting paid: state employees, attorneys, court investigators, guardian ad litems, court personnel, and judges. There are psychologists, therapists, psychiatrists, counselors, foster parents, adoptive parents, and on and on. All are looking to the children in state custody to provide job security. That the Adoption and the Safe Families Act, set in motion first in 1974 by Walter Mondale and later in 1997 by President Bill Clinton, offered cash bonuses to the states for every child they adopted out of foster care. In order to receive the adoption incentive bonuses, local child protective services would need more children. They must have merchandise that sells, and they must have plenty so the buyer can choose. Some counties offer $4,000 to $6,000 bonus for each child adopted out to strangers. and an additional 2,000 for a special needs child. Employees work to keep the federal dollars flowing. But that is only the beginning figure in the formula in which each bonus is multiplied by the percentage that the state has managed to exceed its baseline adoption number. Therefore, states and local communities work hard to reach their goals for increased numbers of adoptions for children in foster care. As you can see, this program is offered from the very top and is run by Health and Human Resources. This is why victims in Child Protective Services get no help from their legislators. It explains why my bill, Senate 415, suffered such defeat in the Judicial Committee, and why I was cut off at every juncture, and why I was defeated myself last month for my reelection by another Republican. That tax dollars are being used to keep this gigantic system afloat. Many grandparents have called me to get custody of their grandparents before being lost in the system. Grandparents who lose their grandchildren to strangers have lost their own flesh and blood. The children lose their family heritage, and grandparents and parents too lose the connection of their heirs. And that the National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect in 1998 reported that 6 times more children died in foster care than in the general public, and that once removed to official safety, these children are far more likely to suffer abuse, including sexual molestation, than in the general population. Think what that number is today, 10 years later. Here are a couple of the recommendations on my list. Call for an independent audit of all state child protective services and for a federal congressional hearing on child protective services. Abolish the federal and state financial incentives that have turned child protective services into a business that separates families for money. I have witnessed such injustice and harm brought to so many families that I am not sure if reform of the system is even possible. The system cannot be trusted. It does not serve the people. It obliterates families and children simply because it has the power to do so. What I have said to you in these few minutes is that we must confront the fraud in child protective services. Child Protective Services seizes children using the very system that is paid for by the taxpayer, who actually believes it is used to protect abused and neglected children. The bureaucracy of workers benefit financially by a system that converts children into cash while destroying their families and their lives. No child who emerges from the system can ever be sound or whole. Many disappear and never are ever heard from again. God will not stand for what is happening to our children and our families. His heart beats for these children. He will lift up the downtrodden. What is happening in America regarding child protective services is a criminal political phenomenon, and it must be brought to an end. Please join me in working to help set our children and our families free. To whom much is given, much is required. As you pray for this nation, pray for the upcoming election and for our national financial crisis. Please pray for our children and for our families. We all must press on and win this race for America. Thank you very much.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
I think that was pretty clear, but that's not all I've got. But if you need to, go back and listen to that again as many times as you need to.
You get praised. The cabinet praises you for terminating rights and adopting the kids out immediately.
Straight ahead at 11, our Target 32 investigation of Kentucky's Child Protective Services continues. Tonight, we hear from former social workers about the abuses of power they say they've seen firsthand and why they're still fearful of the cabinet now.
Live local late-breaking coverage for Greater Louisville continues right now.
The state of Kentucky has paid $425,000 so far to settle lawsuits by 2 former social workers, and lawsuits by 3 other social workers are pending.
Tonight, we continue our investigation of Kentucky's Child Protective Services with a different perspective on what's going on. John Bowl joins us with this Target 32 exclusive.
Thank you, Rick. We've been doing these stories for 3 years now. Abuse of power, falsified documents, lies in court, threats, and retaliation against parents who fight back. We've heard from victims, attorneys, and officials about what's going on, but we haven't heard from the social workers themselves until now. In disturbing detail, they back up many of the things we've reported, that families are harassed and workers are pressured, all in an effort to boost adoption numbers. Because she would not ignore a half dozen allegations of abuse in this foster home, a state social worker was fired.
I did what I felt like I had to do. It was the right thing to do, and I stand by the complaint.
Because Pat Moore of Ellesmere, Kentucky knew she was right, she filed a lawsuit. And last month, the state paid her $380,000 to settle it. When she found that 2 foster parents had criminal records, a son living there with multiple felonies, and a convicted sex offender visiting and sometimes caring for the children, she refused to arrange an adoption. Her CPS supervisors responded with this memo recommending the adoption should proceed quickly.
Our theory is that the basis for this is the tie to the federal money, that every time a child is not placed in a home, the state of Kentucky, through its cabinet, is losing federal money.
It's an allegation we've seen many times in our 3-year-long investigation of Kentucky CPS, that instead of trying to bring families together, the cabinet forces adoptions to earn more federal bonus money. And it apparently started in 2004 when adoptions in Kentucky ballooned to 724, while the federal bonus money more than doubled from $452,000 the year before to more than $1 million.
Statistics. The cabinet puts pressure on statistics because federal money and state money come from statistics.
This former state social worker is so afraid of retaliation on her family by the cabinet, she asked us to conceal her identity.
You get praised. The cabinet praises you for terminating rights and adopting the kids out immediately.
She says the concerted effort to take children away and put them up for adoption was so brazen, she actually saw someone successfully place an order for children.
Someone could not have a child and wanted a child, so within the community, this certain person saw a family that was in distress, was having a hard time, and relayed to workers that they would like those children. And that's exactly what has happened.
And this former CPS supervisor, who also fears retaliation, says if an order for a child was delayed or denied, her supervisors would roll in and try to overturn local decisions.
This one family was promised a child. And when it happened that the child was going to be reunified with the parent, they called our regional office. Our regional office came down on our county. They harassed the birth parents and that kind of thing because they didn't agree with our decision.
So I didn't get to say bye.
And remember the case of Vanessa Shanks, who had her kids taken away, and when she fought back, saw her relatives' kids taken away, and when she won her appeal, saw her attorney's child taken away? These former CPS workers say that kind of retaliatory power is common. And in this secretive one-side system, they can take your kids away right now if they want to and get away with it.
I can call in a report tomorrow, and I can make it seem very real to the point that a family will be investigated. And whoever gets it could come up with a substantiation of, say, let's say neglect, and it might not be true. But it doesn't matter.
Now, according to data just released a couple of days ago, there is a huge disparity between counties on adoption rates. Some counties reunify with the family 100% of the children they've taken away. Others last year adopted out as high as 82% of the children they removed from the home. If you want to look at the stats and more, we have a link to the Child Welfare Report on the homepage of our website, WLKY.com. The commissioner of CPS will talk to me, respond to our investigation tomorrow. We'll have that for you.
Hear that, yeah.
Thanks, John.
Well, it's interesting. So, let's see. That's not all. I could show you this all night, hours and hours and hours. I'm just showing you a sampling. Sorry about that. But, you know, proof, need proof, receipts, here they are.
Well, the showdown over local baby continues tonight. Livingston County officials have been demanding an address for little Naomi Burns since last week.
Now, 7 investigator Heather Catallo has exclusive video that shows authorities did have the baby's last known address. Heather's here now with a look at what she's uncovered.
Well, this saga certainly continues tonight. Child Protective Services workers told lawyers for the Burns family last Friday that they had a court order that required them to tell them baby Naomi's physical address. Tonight, we have the video that shows what happened when a family member gave CPS that address.
Here comes Peter Cottontail.
This is exclusive video of baby Naomi Burns during a recent portrait session with her mother, Brenda. Brenda Burns is now in hiding because the police and Child Protective Services workers have come knocking twice in the last few weeks, even though Brenda has been cleared of all child abuse allegations.
And they clearly continue to want to persecute the mother as if she's a perpetrator when she's been cleared by a jury as not being one.
Elizabeth Warner is Brenda's attorney. A jury did convict Brenda's husband, Josh, of abusing Naomi. Both parents and other medical experts say retinal hemorrhaging and the bleeding that was found between Naomi's skull and brain were caused by birth trauma and a severe illness. Josh is facing up to 10 years in prison and will likely lose his job as a commercial airline pilot. Without an income, Warner says Brenda was forced to move in with family friends. Now Warner says CPS workers from the Michigan Department of Human Services, or DHS, won't leave her alone.
Daughter was given back to her. She's the fit parent. And under our Constitution and the way that our Michigan Supreme Court case has interpreted it, they cannot put her child under supervision of DHS because that's what foster care is. It's supervision by DHS.
Is there a Joshua here?
No.
Warner says it was this raid on Brenda's home the night of Josh's criminal conviction that prompted the mother to fear that CPS was trying to take Naomi away again.
I'm with CPS.
To stop what Warner is calling harassment and legal terrorism, she told CPS they had to go through her and that they could correspond with Brenda only through a P.O. box. That prompted CPS to request this order from a judge last Friday that says only that the mother and or father has to provide the child's current address by 5 p.m. It is not a warrant to search a home.
These lovely ladies just need to get an eye on a child. That's all they
No one's home right now.
They're not home at all.
No.
Okay.
They live here, but they're not home.
The address was provided, and about an hour later, a state trooper and CPS workers were at the door.
It's just pure harassment. I really do not believe that Naomi would have been in any kind of danger.
Matt Ekman and his wife let Brenda and Naomi move in, and Ekman was ready with the camera rolling on Friday.
You have to have a court order to enter my home. Okay, that I do know. So you can supervise the child anywhere you want, but if you want to supervise the child in my home, you will need a court order.
He refused to let them in.
I don't believe that they are even remotely interested in Naomi's health. I think anybody who's any contact with Brenda knows that she's a very good mother, and she doesn't need the help of CPS breathing down her back.
Livingston County prosecutors have maintained that the failure to provide Naomi's location causes concern that Josh Burns may be violating his no contact order with his daughter. Josh denies that and sent us this statement that says, quote, "In order to stop my wife and daughter from being harassed by the Livingston County Prosecutor's Office, CPS, and the Brighton Police Department, I offered to wear an ankle transmitter to provide them my location around the clock. None of these departments even responded to that, which reveals their true motives to abuse their power and continue to harass my family. Livingston County is drunk on power. They are the ones abusing my family, unquote. So obviously some strong words from them, but he offered to wear a tether. If the issue is the dad, he's offering to wear a tether or to be locked up in advance.
And they wouldn't even answer that. So what are they actually accusing Brenda of doing?
Well, there are no new abuse allegations, and that's why her lawyer says CPS has no actual jurisdiction in this case. All they keep saying is they're worried about the baby being with the convicted abuser, the dad. But as I just mentioned, he has offered to wear a tether and even to be locked up in advance of the sentencing to prove that he has not seen the baby. And because of this most recent police presence at her door, that's yet another reason that Brenda is now in hiding with Naomi. Prosecutors want a judge to order her to bring the baby to court next week. They're also asking for an order to get into the home where they're staying. So they'll be back in court next week.
It just seems devastating, especially if they lock the dad up and then you want to take the baby from the mom too, and she hasn't done anything.
This family says they've absolutely been destroyed, and they maintain that they're both innocent. Obviously, Josh was convicted. He's gonna go to prison, but they say that he's innocent.
Wow. Stay on top of this story, as I know you will, Heather, and we'll get to the bottom of it eventually. Okay.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I could really tell you more than that, and if need be, I will. But I'm just answering this person with her belief system, so I need to let her know that was needs
against government agencies that exist to assist human beings in need. I would reckon there are some bad apples, yeah. I would reckon there are some bad apples.
Some bad apples, yeah.
Aren't there everywhere? But you saying, accusing state systems of their corruption, I'd like to see some proof of that. Not just agreeing with what Donald Wells says. Guys, I know I'm rambling. I don't care. Maybe I need to ramble.
Okay, well, did you see the proof? I'm just asking, did you see the proof? Because it was proof right there. I just showed you proof. I can show you a lot more proof if you need more proof. I'm not trying to battle with you. In fact, I left a nice comment on your page the other day. However, calling someone a coddler and telling me or Jinkies to put, I believe you said crack and something else in a baby bottle. I don't even know what you were talking about because I'm not a drug addict nor an alcoholic. So I don't know what you're talking about. But what I'm saying is I'm not trying to start anything with you. There's enough drama on these YouTube streets. I'm saying don't call me out or Jinkies out and say that we're coddling and say that there's no proof of CPS corruption in this country of ours is a lie. And maybe you need to check your facts before you make those statements, because regardless if you think Don Wells is guilty or not, that is not for us to say. In this country, it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. And I thought you were involved in the government somehow. You said, and that you had ties to law enforcement. You should know that in this country, it's innocent until proven guilty. And I'm not saying that the man is innocent. I'm not saying that he's a saint. Okay. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that I don't see any proof that he did anything with his daughter. I don't see proof because the people that you're saying said the things about him are also meth heads. So you're believing just one method over another. And why? I'm just asking because you asked for proof. I showed you proof. I'm not coddling anybody, but I'm going to call out the truth. And I'm the one that said CPS is corrupt everywhere in every state. Jinkies may have said it too. She was pretty quiet actually in that conversation. And I don't see anything wrong with carrying on a conversation with another human being whose child is missing. Until the police or law enforcement prove anything else, he right now is a father with a missing daughter. That's the only fact we've got right now. Oh, and one more fact. CPS is corrupt. Have a great evening.